And we're live. Hello, friends. I am excited to do office hours. I was not going to do office hours today because I was going to be traveling, but then there was an issue with that trip, and so we're not doing that after all. Let me get this posted. Starting office hours now. And here's the link to the Zoom call. Okay. And yeah, let me share my screen too. And just make sure that I'm not going to share anything that I wouldn't want to share publicly. There we go. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Here we go. So welcome to office hours. If you've never been to office hours before, then this is just a thing that I do once a week when I'm not super busy, when I don't have other things going on, and to just answer people's questions. So that is what this is all about. People will ask questions on Discord in the office hours channel, or you can join the Zoom call and even share your screen if you need to, or for asking your question. And I'll hang around for about an hour to answer questions. So nobody's here yet. And let me just come up here to the last question. Unfortunately, it has been a while since I was able to answer questions. So let's see here. Okay, I think this is probably the last one, maybe. I don't remember answering that question, so here, I'll look at this one. Answering this now. So, just worker process is terminated by sick term. Yeah, actually, update. I'm afraid that doesn't give me quite enough information to be very useful. Can you make a reproduction repository that I can clone? Unlikely, but yeah, hopefully Cuter Than Bacon has gotten that figured out since, yeah, that was almost a month ago. Okay, let's see. Taryn, what is up? Almost a month old question. I'm pretty sure, yeah, that I have not answered that. So answering this now. Okay, some code provide a not so great API enforcing people to remember to wrap functions they pass and use callback. Yep, I know that. Why you have that requirement already without even looking at it. Also, this is a new feature. That's kind of nice. You can copy the code. Is there a way to make an API better and less error prone for users? Happy if the answer is no, but thought I'd ask. So here's the custom hook. You have this on intersect, on exit, and those need to be memoized with use callback. Otherwise, this use effect will get run over and over and over. So let's see. Yes. Do I cover it? I didn't for a second. Advanced React hooks netlify.app. So here, extra credit 2. Oh, yeah. Yes. So this is a way you can do this, where basically the way that I suggest, or the way that this would have you do it is you return, yeah, you return a function that encapsulates this logic, and then people pass in their, will call use effect themselves, and then call your function. And that can potentially pass the on intersect and on exit. And what that gets you is if they that they can like define that on intersect and on exit within the use effect, or they can define it outside, but they will at least have the lint plugin tell them, hey, you need to memorize this. That's actually not a bad idea. You could do it this way, for sure. Another way that you could do it is follow what React Query does and various other libraries. Here, and I will just paste this right here. Extra credit to could work here too. And no, Epic React articles. There we go. And this is the latest ref pattern. So you could use this as well. That was the first thing I was thinking when I saw this. So you could try both of those and decide which one you hate the least. But yeah, you do not have to require people to memorize the stuff that they pass. There are other options if you don't want to do that. All right, Breno, 2 points. Love to hear your thoughts about, let's say, answering this now. Okay. Modeling a database using Prisma ORM for a system with 2 types of users, student and a teacher. I have a user model that has the credentials. I can already tell you're probably going to ask a question about polymorphism in a database, but we'll see. Okay, user model has credentials, attributes, need auth. It contains some attributes that would be common among students and teachers, email, name, but they have distinct attributes that set them apart. We discussed the issues of trying to implement polymorphism in relational DB in the workshop. Yep. I recall you commenting about it in the last office hours, but in this case, do you think that it'd be worth it to duplicate attributes like username, email, etc., by creating user student, user teacher tables and handle these 2 different tables when doing the authentication flow? Or do you think this is a case where we could try some polymorphism, having the user table that would be associated to student and teacher table? In this case, we only handle the user table in the auth flow. This is a great question. Let's continue. I saw you use a ladder approach in Rocket. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to bring up, actually. Unsure your views have changed. We'll answer that question first. So let's take a look at Rocket Rental. Let's see, Epic Web Dev Rocket Rental. And if we look at the schema here, then we've got a user, but then we have a host and a renter, and that is associated to a user. The interesting thing is that a user can be a host, a renter, an admin, and it could be all of those. It could be none of those, any combination of those. So that's one thing that's kind of interesting about this. That might be a little bit different. Also, the admin user, I of course would not do this anymore. What's in the Epic stack is what I do with permissions. But yeah, the host and renter idea here. And the thing that you have to, okay, first of all, I will say that it is very nice to just have a user that is the only thing that you deal with during the authentication flow. Otherwise, you have to say, is this email in this table? Oh, no, it's not in that one. Is it in this table? Oh, it's not in that one. Now, like maybe you've got multiple different kinds of users. And so that can be a bit of a pain. And so, yes, being able to work with just one type of user is really nice. And so the problem is, though, that when you build up these associations between different types of users, like a host user and a renter user, that is impossible to enforce on the database level that those things exist. So you can't say, here's a user, and it has either a host or a renter. It has to have, those both have to be optional. And so as you're going through the UI, that can surface itself. It probably is fine for what you're doing. Let me just, yeah, you've got the student and teacher. Yeah, it's probably fine. The part of the problem here is that as far as the database is concerned, a user could have a student and a teacher model, and maybe that's okay. But it's kind of annoying to have an impossible state in your application. So that's something to think about as well. As far as the database is concerned, the user table doesn't know anything about the teacher user or the student user. And so like it's that I think, yeah, anyway, that's just a thought that I had. Yeah, what would I do? I think that I would do what I'm doing in Rocket Rental. So in this way, the user has attributes that are kind of collected as these are the attributes for a student. Let's look at the Epic Stack and see. I want to show the Prisma schema here as well. Specifically, I want to talk about the note the user image right here. So the user has an image, it's optional. And the user image has alt text, content type, blob, and that's it. Those are the important bits of information for an image on the user model. So the question is, well, Kent, if this is a one-to-one relationship where one user can have one image, then why don't we just take these properties and stick them right in the user model? And so the answer to that is because if the content type is defined, then the blob also must be defined. But if the user doesn't have an image, then those two things are optional. And so where it makes a lot of sense to make a separate model is where you say, this group of fields are, they should all be present or all not be present together. It would never make sense to have a user image content type on the user model if the user image blob wasn't also on the model. Sorry, let me zoom that in. So that's one reason why we have a user image model at all, instead of just taking these three pieces and putting it onto the user itself. And so in the same way, I think that it makes sense to not just put the properties of a teacher or a student on the user model directly. And instead, those can be separate tables that say, if this user is a student, then here are all the properties that they're going to have. If this user is a teacher, then here are all the properties they're going to have. So while this definitely does, like when you squint, this definitely looks a bit like trying to squeeze polymorphism into a relational database, which is typically not a great strategy. I think that this specific case makes sense. You just have to acknowledge the fact that when you authenticate the user, you are not going to know for sure whether they're a teacher or a student. You won't be able to enforce that they are only a teacher and only a student. And so that will be a challenge that you're gonna have probably. So, but if I were you, I would probably do what I'm doing in Rocket Rental for the host and renter. They can be optional. Another thing that I'll mention is the only reason, or right here with the alt text and content type and blob, that's what I said earlier is why we have this user image model. Another reason that you make a separate model for stuff is to keep that out of that table, so that when people do a select star, that information doesn't come back. Specifically, I'm talking about the password model. And we talk about this in Epic Web, but the only thing on the password that matters is this hash. And the hash actually includes the salt. So this should probably be called hash salt, but that would be super weird. So it's called hash. But yeah, the reason that we have this separate model here is so that if somebody selects star from user, they're not going to get the hash, which does happen on occasion. Developers would just forget to add a select to their Prisma query or something, and now they get all the data. So yeah, those are the two reasons why we separate our models, or two of the reasons why we separate our models for one-to-one relations. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Good luck on that. What's up, Taryn? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I didn't know we had office hours today.
Yeah. So I actually canceled it, but then a trip that I had planned for today got canceled, and so I was like, why do I not have any meetings today? Oh yeah, that's because I had a trip, and oh yeah, I don't have the trip anymore, so I can do office hours again.
Nice.
So I answered your question earlier. Have you already watched it?
No, but I was just reading the article you linked to. So it seems like a ref is that pattern. I don't know what that pattern's called, but
Yeah, the latest ref. Yeah, you got two options. That one exercise is not a bad option either. So
cool.
cool. Did you have any other questions before I get into the rest of these?
I'm sure I'll think of something. I'll chime in.
Okay.
I'll put my hand up if I have one.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. So we've got, let me just make sure I'm not, oh yeah, we've got the second question to Breno. And I also have a study plan model which is in these scenarios. Scenario 1, default scenario. The teacher would create a study plan for his students. So the study plan table would need to be associated with the teacher and the student. Sure. Then scenario 2, the teacher could create his or her own study plan. So the study plan would be only associated with the teacher. I'm not sure I understand that use case, or like what is trying to be accomplished there. Like the teacher makes their own study plan for themselves, or I don't know what that means, but okay. Then scenario 3, the student could create his or her own study plan. So the study plan table would only be associated with the student. Hold on a second. There was like a helicopter or something. It was super weird. It just sounded louder than usual. Okay, yeah. So, interesting. Yeah, okay. Thinking if this is a case where I should create two separate tables, a teacher study plan, which would be associated with the teacher, and a study plan, the default one, associated with the student, and have the teacher as optional, option teacher ID in the table. Would be glad to hear your thoughts. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, you could also have three, where you have the scenario 1 study plan, scenario 2 study plan, and scenario 3 study plan. So let's talk through all these different options. I think, huh. So first of all, I think you could probably manage with just a single study plan and just make the teacher and student optional. Anytime, like if we're thinking about the teacher model and the student model, the relationship that they share with the study plan. Sorry, I'm thinking through some things. So like whenever you're modeling a database, the thing that you need to really consider is that modeling a database is much different from writing a function, like a business logic code, because you can write the business logic and then later decide, you know what, I don't like the way that I did that. I'm going to change these variables and I'm going to do whatever. And so it's really pretty straightforward to do that. You model a database and you decide later, oh, this isn't flexible enough for our use case or whatever. And now you're looking at a migration, which sometimes is not a big deal and other times kind of is a bit of a deal. And so you do want to, like, you want to avoid predicting the future, because you're just as bad at predicting the future with your data model as you are with anything else that we're building. But at the same time, it is like a lot more expensive, for lack of a better word, to change your data model than to change your code. So you do want to bet a little bit better. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking of right now is how do we make this flexible? So like one thing that you could do is do a many-to-many relationship between the study plan and a user. So it wouldn't even be specific to a teacher or a student, but rather be a study plan that's associated to a user. And so what that would mean is you can have multiple users and multiple teachers associated to a single study plan. You could also, and so then the study plan model would have, ultimately what would happen is when you create that type of a relationship, which actually I will link you to my, let's see. Yeah, the permissions in the Epic stack, that would be an auth on Epic Web Dev. And if we go to, this is going to get a redesign. This looks like nonsense. But permissions, where is that? Permission. Wait, oh, role-based access. There it is. So right in here, there it is. Dun, 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 dun. So this has a many-to-many relationship between the user and role, and many-to-many between the role and permission. And you can take a look at the migration that's created when you make that. It creates a permission to role and role to user table to manage that relationship. But you don't have to worry about that. All you do is you create a model for the permission and a model for the role. And then each one of these, like none of them actually contains the relationship, the attribute or directive. And Prisma sees that and says, oh, this is a many-to-many relationship. I'll manage that for you with this table. So what you could do is say the user model has an array of study plans, and then the study plans has an array of users. And then you can have any number of any type of user associated to a study plan. And that would work pretty well. You could also do a study plan has an array of teachers and an array of students, and then students and teachers have an array of study plans. That would also work if you wanted to differentiate between who's the student and who's the teacher. I think given the choice between those two options, I think I might go with that second option, where you'd have a study plan has an array of students, an array of teachers, and then those different models have an array of study plans. I think that would probably be the best. That way, in the future, if you decide that like students can share study plans with each other and stuff, that could be helpful. Another thing you might consider is an owner. So whoever is the owner of the study plan. So like that would be the person who gets to edit, and potentially like that. There's a lot of different use or product decisions that need to go into how you model this database or this these models as well. Like, well, okay, so can students share study plans with other students? Will they ever be able to? And if they are, do you need to think about like people who are viewers of the study plan and editors of the study plan, and that sort of thing? And so, or is this literally just about access, and anybody who has access can change it or something? So a couple of things to think about there with that model, but hopefully that gives you the right direction to go. I think what I would do is have the study plan have an array of teachers and students. That's probably what I'd do. So good luck. Okay, Milmar was responding to, oh yeah, Benjamin. Awesome. Benjamin is asking about spas, and answering this now. All right, Benjamin, let's see. I'm reaching out with a high-level question about single-page apps. Having extensively used Remix for the past 2 years, my understanding on the prerequisites for a true spa setup has somewhat faded. Yeah, I know that feeling. I am currently venturing into the development of an application where SEO isn't a priority, and as far as I can discern, SSR seems unnecessary too. I absolutely enjoy utilizing Remix. The developer experience is stellar, and its functionalities practically eliminate the need for a distinct API or state management library, integrating the server database as my state organically. That being said, I can't help but wonder if resorting to a SPA or an SPA could potentially lessen the server load, primarily by eliminating server-side rendering and limiting the server interactions to API calls only. This leads me to my central question. In your opinion, are there scenarios where pivoting to an SPA approach, perhaps coupled with React Router, retains its merits? Thank you for your insights. So first of all, I'll say, yeah, there's absolutely a situation where an SPA has a merit. And I suppose one of those is server load, but not necessarily. So let me talk about that first. When a SPA boots up, so you're going to get the SPA resources from CDN, and that's no big deal. Like, that's easy stuff. Your server isn't going to take any load there, and it's all cached and it's all beautiful there. But once it boots up, it's going to start making network requests. And if you're not using Remix, then you're probably going to need a REST API or a GraphQL API. And in either of those cases, GraphQL actually does not really save on server load necessarily. It potentially can, but not necessarily does, because those resolvers end up hitting the database a lot. And to put this query together, and it's actually pretty easy to end up overloading the server with a lot of inefficient queries with those resolvers. Like, you add this one field to what you're asking for, and all of a sudden you're making tons and tons of queries to the database. So even GraphQL isn't going to necessarily help. So with a REST endpoint, though, you're going to be hitting the server a bunch of different times to go get the data that you need, because you're not running data on the server. So you're just going to be grabbing tons and tons of data. And whereas with Remix, you have your loader running on the server. So the server is hit just once. You can talk to the database within that loader, and then you send back the data. So I would push against the argument that an SPA results in a lighter workload for the server. It does not necessarily do that. And in fact, I would argue that Remix with its loader pattern probably ends up in a less workload for the server as a result of that. And then you add to that all of the other really awesome things that you get out of Remix, with like the fact that you don't have to have the bespoke API for different routes and stuff like that. It's just really, really, really nice. So yeah, I think that you should probably still use Remix. If you're comfortable using Remix and you're still able to deploy it on your infrastructure that you're going to use and all of that, then yes, still use Remix. A SPA with like React Router and the loaders and actions and all of that can be really useful for teams that are kind of have their hands tied as far as the infrastructure they deploy on, which definitely organizationally, there are a lot of places like that. And so that stinks. That is the reality of things, though. So that is just otherwise, I'm pretty darn happy just using Remix, even for stuff that where SEO doesn't matter. User experience always matters, and your user experience is going to be better with SSR, period. Okay, great question. Let's see. And welcome. Okay, I think that is all of the questions. And Taryn, you're the only one left here in the Zoom. Did you have any, or you think of anything, or are we done?
All the questions I have are related to the Epic stack.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about the Epic stack.
Or rather, when the workshops are coming out, what I can
Oh, Epic Web. Yeah, yeah.
Epic Web. Sorry.
Yeah, let's talk about Epic Web. I'd love to talk about it. What questions do you have?
Well, I think you already kind of put this in your email about probably launching in October, but for example, I'm like really interested in picking up better understanding on data modeling, because I'm not great at it. So are the workshops going to be split up where you can purchase like one individually, or are you guys still figuring that out?
Yeah, good question. So we are still figuring that out. Because the fact is that Epic Web is much bigger than Epic React, and so the price will reflect that. And Epic React is already a really premium course, and so I can definitely appreciate that for a lot of people. It just won't as much as they want the knowledge and they want to be able to buy it, it just will be out of people's budget. And so I do want to make sure that we have a pricing structure that where people will be able to get it. The other thing that I am working on is solving this problem. The problem is that the workshops are very linear in that like you build things as you go. And so you'll get to, if you start with like halfway through the auth workshop, there's a lot of previous knowledge that we kind of built up that you will be missing. And like there's domain knowledge about the app that we're building and stuff like that, that I try hard to make it so that you can just jump in, but will be challenging. So I've got to figure out how to deal with that. Because yeah, I do think that people are, well, no matter what I do, people are going to, even if they buy the whole thing, they're going to skip to the stuff that they want to focus on, because like most people don't have 6 months to a year to just go through an entire series of workshops like this. And so, yeah, I am working on solving that problem. A lot of that comes with the instructions that I provide and everything here too. But yeah, that's a long way to answer your question. I can't commit to it fully, but I am pretty sure that there will be a more of an a la carte option than I've had before. Like Epic React, as you know, had these 3 tiers, and so you can get these 2 workshops, and then you can upgrade and get these more, and then you can get all of them this with the higher tier. And so, yeah, I definitely had people saying, all I want to know about is testing React apps. And that's the only way to get it is pro, but like, I don't care about the rest of this stuff. And my response has always been, you think you just need this, but you actually need all of this too. And so like, you'll be happy to have all of this stuff too. You'll learn a lot from that. But again, the Epic Web is just going to be such a big thing. It'll just it'd be harder for people to access. And so, yeah, we'll probably do something that's a la carte. What I'm thinking, we're like I said, I can't commit to anything, but what I'm kind of thinking is maybe there will be like a core module that you buy that would be like the first module or 2, and then you can grab the other pieces that you want if you don't want to go the full thing. So that is kind of the idea there. And then of course, like also I want to make sure that this knowledge is accessible to everybody. So even though you won't be able to get access to all the videos, all of this material is open source and everything. People can go through it on their own. The experience for those folks who don't have the videos, or actually the experience for everybody, will be something like this, where you'll have the instructions here, you'll have the video right here. Oh, that should not scroll. There's a bug right there. Whoops. But yeah, and so if you are signed into Epic Web and you have access, then you'll be able to watch this video. And then you can go through and finish the exercise. But for everybody else, they just will see actually the next video. It'll be something like this. So you'll still be able to go through all the material. You just won't be able to watch the videos, and that's what the experience will be like. So there are a couple options there, and hopefully we're able to help people the best way we can.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, right. Now that came up while you were talking. It's more of an architecture thing, but I'm working on this like really legacy code base, like 5-6 years old. Just like,
wow, there you talk to some people that I used to work with, and they'd be like 5 or 6 years old. That's like barely brand new project. But yes, okay. Legacy old in
my eyes,
modern web terms. Yeah, that's pretty
modern
old.
web terms, like HOCs everywhere, and you could tell like it was written by a bunch of Java developers and backend developers, so they use a lot of front end best practices. But I wanted to get your opinion on like they have a models directory where they have types for all the different database models that exist, right? So like, for example, let's say we're talking about a product, it has an ID, has a name, has a description, and then they have a type in a directory called models. Are you like a fan of that kind of pattern, or do you feel like it's kind of not really well suited for like full stack web apps, like
So when you say type, that's like a TypeScript type
yeah,
definitely.
TypeScript type.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, I am pretty much a fan of that. I don't do that because I have Prisma, and Prisma generates all my models for me. But at the end of the day, I do have models. They are generated for me by Prisma, but I do have that, and I love it. The biggest challenge with those types of models is that you end up saying, okay, so I'm going to display a user avatar, and all I need is the alt text and the source image URL or whatever, or maybe I just need the user ID and I can create that URL or whatever. But I have the user object and I have the user model. So instead of just accepting an ID and an alt text as props, I'm just going to accept the whole user, and now and I'll accept the user model. And so then if there's a part of the app that like is showing a preview of the user or something like that, now TypeScript is saying, no, you need not only the ID and the alt text, but you also are going to need the created at and the updated at and like the first name and the last name. Like you're going to need all this stuff. And so that is, I'm not saying don't have a models type sort of thing, but you just need to watch out for, this has probably already happened in your code base, but just watch out for that where because it's easier, people don't put forth the extra effort required to like make it ergonomic in that way, like not overpass props.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because I was struggling, because to be honest, at my last couple of gigs, we didn't really use this convention of like having a models directory of all the types that kind of mirrored the database models. I
Mm-hmm.
found that was common in traditional MVC applications, like if you're doing like Laravel or Django or whatever, um, you know, having a models directory. Because this is the first time I've actually seen it in a front end code base.
Mm.
Right. Even the ones I've seen open source, I haven't seen like a models directory with types and classes and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
you know, but
I don't really, I don't necessarily have a problem with that at all. I think that's perfectly fine. You just have to watch out for that. Like there was something else I was going to say about that. Yeah. So in general, I try really hard to rely on inference as much as possible, and then to reduce my reliance on models in general. But let me show you one place where I actually do use the model directly, and I just literally was working on this. Yes, when we're doing third-party login, and right in let's see. Yeah, so here we have the sign up with connection. So you're logging in with GitHub, or you're signing up for an account. You'll notice that I'm taking the email, username, name, like all this stuff is coming from the form, but it's going into the user model. So this is a string, that's a string, that's a string. There's nothing like super complicated about all of these, but you'll notice that I'm actually plucking those off of these models. And the reason that I'm doing that, even though this just resolves to a string for all of these, is because I want to communicate like what this actually is for to anybody who's reading the code. And so that can be really useful. And so when you're making utilities for stuff like, okay, I want you to take this this user and get a display name for them based on their first name and last name, instead of just taking the whole user model and saying this is give me a user and I'll give you their display name. Instead, what I would do is you can use the pick utility to just pick the properties from the user, and actually that's probably what you could easily do here is like pick email, username, and name, and then or union it with the rest of this stuff. I would, I'd be fine with either. But in any case, just the most important piece of all of this is don't accept more arguments than you actually need to do your task. And then from there, you're fine.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Good stuff. All right, let's see. I think somebody was typing in Discord here, jumping. Will there be any updates to the Epic Web Dev as the Remix updates something or a better new strategy and stuff like that? Also, I know basic React intermediate. Okay, yeah, 2 questions. So first, jumping your first question, yes, my plan is to update stuff. I'll start with that. But I want to be very clear that when I sell something on testingjavascript.com or epicreact.dev or epicweb.dev, I am selling what you are buying. And so what shows up on there is what you are getting access to. And I do not sell the future. This is a very important part of the way I do things. I know that there are lots of other instructors and courses that promise updates within 6 months of things and whatever. And I appreciate what they're doing. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But it's very important to me that I don't make a promise that I can't keep or won't be able to keep. I don't know what the future looks like. And I don't want anybody buying something from me, assuming that they're getting one thing and then not be able to get it. That's also why I don't typically do pre-sales, though sometimes I do. And it always makes me feel a little uncomfortable to sell workshops, honestly, because you don't get it right then, like you're going to get it later. So I do it that way because you have to, like, I can't not sell workshops that way. But it's just a thing going on in my mind all the time. I want our transaction to be done right from, as soon as the transaction happens. So yeah, I'm not promising that updates will come, but I am planning on it. So I just recorded 452 videos for this series of workshops in like 4 weeks. And it was just a ridiculous amount of work. And I have talked with Ryan Florence a lot about what's coming in Remix version 3. And while the mental model of loaders and actions and that sort of thing, and also like the web principles, cookies and sessions and the data modeling stuff, all of that will still very much apply. The videos will become instantly out of date because you're looking at this thing and you're like, oh, that's not the way we do things now. And so I fully expect that as soon as Remix version 3 shows up, all like I said, all the concepts will still apply. It'll still be really, really valuable information, but it will feel very outdated, and there may be new and improved ways, new and improved patterns or strategies, as you said, to the way that we do these things. And so I am already planning on next year redoing all of these videos and updating all of the material. Which stinks, but it is what it is. I've been lucky with Epic React, and that React hasn't changed much in 3 years. There are a couple of small changes, and then of course Suspense and React server components, which are still, in flux. But that sort of thing is kind of that has changed a little bit. But for the most part, Epic React is still just as relevant today as it was when I launched it 3 years ago, which is mind-blowing to me. I got really lucky there. But when you're building a full stack app that has the dependencies that we're using and everything like that, like things are going to change. And so I fully expect to need to update all of this material within the next year or so, and I plan to. And then the next question people ask is, well, okay, so if I'm buying today's stuff today, when you update it, do I have to buy tomorrow's stuff tomorrow? Like, do I have to buy it again? And that I have not decided. It probably, like, I am pretty confident that an update like that will not, won't be like you're buying it all over again. But I probably will charge for it at some level because that's, like, I've got to keep this sustainable. I do just so much stuff to make it free and affordable and all of that. But yeah, so I probably will charge for updates that happen. But it'll be like seriously heavily discounted for anybody who already has a license. So that hopefully answers your question. And then as far as, basic React and intermediate JS, will that be enough? 100% it will. So really all that you need to know to be effective at Epic Web is, where is it? JavaScript to know for React. There we go. It is this one. So if you know this stuff, and the free material from Total TypeScript, just the free stuff, free tutorials, here we go. React with TypeScript, that would be probably all you would need there. And then like Node.js, you need like a little bit of experience, but I don't even know a very good resource to get it. So you don't really need to worry too much about Node.js. And there was some, and then beginner React, the beginner React course, that should be all that you really need to know to be successful going through Epic Web. Okay, with Remix, I didn't need anything much with problem solution. I don't understand this question. Sorry, jumping. With Remix, I didn't need. Yeah, sorry, I don't understand the question. Jumping, if you can jump in with some context, then that would be helpful. Okay, Rafaela or Raphael, or I'm not sure how to say your name, but somebody is here in the Zoom, and I just want to ask if you had a question while you're here, or if you're just hanging out. You're welcome to just hang out too. People do that all the time. But
hey, thanks. Rafael here from Poland.
Awesome, Rafael.
Yeah, actually, I have a question, but I need to write it because language barrier, and I want to make it clear. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Can you write it in the Discord? That way we can keep it around.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Didn't need much React. Yeah. So with basic React skills, you should be good to go through Epic Web. Yeah, like even this beginner React thing that's I think it's like 2.5 hours long. It's pretty dense, so lots of stuff to go through on this. But yeah, you should be able to have like most of the knowledge that you need just from that. If you really want to get really deep into React, then Epic React is where you want to go. But I don't think that you necessarily have to go through Epic React to be successful on Epic Web. So, and I will add that existing license holders to Epic Web or to Epic React and testing JavaScript will get a very strong discount on Epic Web and early access. That is the current plan. I will also add that people who get Epic Web will actually get a discount on Epic React and testing JavaScript in the future as well. That's also the plan. Yeah, what's up, Taryn?
So with Epic Web launching pretty soon, this is kind of a loaded question, but is there any need to be watching testing JavaScript anymore because you're going to be covering testing in Epic Web?
Yeah.
Because like Playwright wasn't around back then, and I actually haven't used Playwright yet, so I don't even know if it's great or not, but I do think you're covering it in Epic Web.
Yeah, I am covering Playwright. Let's pull up testing JavaScript too. Yeah, no dark mode on testing JavaScript. This is made in a time when we didn't care about those things. And then Epic React, there's no light mode on Epic React either. This was awesome. Oh no, there is. Just kidding. I forgot there is a light mode. Anyway, yeah, so testing JavaScript goes really, really deep into testing. So here in this first module, we build a testing framework. And then we build the mocking framework as well. We configure all of the different tools with the static analysis stuff. We go really deep into testing library outside of React to give you a really good idea of what testing library is all about, that it has nothing to do with React. Yeah, we configure Jest like really, really deeply. And then we do a lot of different tests on components. And then we do full end-to-end testing with Cypress. And then we test the node backend as well. So there's just a ton of stuff. And this one, the test node backends, this one is actually workshop format. The rest of these are like egghead course style stuff where you watch, you don't really follow along, and then you apply what you learn in your own stuff. So that's what testing JavaScript is. What the testing full stack testing workshop is we've got we don't do any configuration, and I assume some experience with testing. So we don't really go into what is testing. Like there are articles and stuff that I send you off to as part of all this and everything. But yeah, we don't really go into the depths of that we do on testing JavaScript. And this stuff is all like super practical, but there are definitely some concepts, especially in this one, which I cannot dive into. I'd have to be logged in. Here, let me show you what this looks like when you're logged in. In here, this is 2 hours and 24 minutes of course material of videos, 42 video lessons that are taking forever to load. We are actually in the middle of migrating Epic React and testing JavaScript over to the new system that Epic React and all the other or Epic Web and all the other new courses are built on top of. And so hopefully when that's done, this will be a lot faster. I do not know why this is taking so long. There we go. Yeah, so we go pretty deep. I was looking for something specific, but now I can't remember what it was. Yeah, pretty deep into all this stuff, and this is all still like super useful and relevant stuff. Like even we have the Act utility and all of that stuff. We go deep on all of that. We don't go as deep in the full stack testing workshop. Now, there are only 11 exercises here, but these exercises represent multiple steps. And so there is like still a ton of content in all of these. But yeah, just not as much as what's in testing JavaScript. So long way to answer your question. But yeah, the testing JavaScript still is very relevant, especially if you want to get a really deep look into testing and mocking and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't say that like anybody should feel like it's a super requirement for them to get a good understanding of testing, because this full stack testing really does go into things. We don't do any configuration of tools. Well, we do a little bit. Like this, actually, the very last exercise here has a little configuration of vtest. There you go. So like there are a couple little things like that, but for the most part, like right from the get-go, you start with fully configured Playwright. So if we look at the first app and go down to our Playwright config, this is all configured for you from the start. We don't talk about that at all. So anyway,
Okay.
and that's actually intentional. Like it, most of the time you actually are not configuring tools. Most of the time you're using those tools. And so that's why we don't get into that stuff. But understanding the config is still useful too. So
I had another one again.
yeah, sure.
So the one thing I really liked about, I liked Epic React quite a bit, but one thing is it was tied to my personal email. Are we gonna kind of do that again with the Epic Web? Because maybe I want to leave my job in a few months.
Yes. So this is actually very important. Joel Hooks just tweeted about this yesterday, and I just want to bring it up again. Let's see. There it is, right there. Always register your course purchases under your best personal email. Like shout this from the rooftops. Everybody should be doing this. Do not register. Like some people want to, or like some companies will require that you use your company email and stuff. You just if that's what it is, then that's fine. Just as soon as you get your everything registered, send an email to support and ask them to change it to your personal. Because yeah, you just like all of the things that so with Epic Web, Epic React, everything I do, I am my customer is the engineer, not the business that I'm selling to. And there are some organizations that will buy a single license and have a shared email. If that is an organization that you're at, you are stealing from me. That is dishonest, and your boss should feel bad. So yeah, don't participate in any of that. But yeah, you get that email set to your own personal email. Absolutely.
Nice. All right.
Okay, cool. Let's see. RG, what's the roadmap for Epic Stack looking at the next 6 months to a year? So the biggest thing that will happen to the Epic Stack in that time frame will probably be to upgrade to Remix version 3, which of course is still being worked on right now. So that is conditional on them actually finishing Remix v3, but that will be like a pretty significant change to the Epic Stack when that happens. Again, like all of the things that you learned will still apply. I know that the Remix team is really wanting to make sure that this isn't a Angular 2 moment where like everything you used to know now doesn't matter anymore, and like that was terrible. I remember that. That was not a great feeling. So that is not the case with Remix v3. But a lot, like there will be improved patterns that you'll want to adopt incrementally, and so the Epic Stack will upgrade to those. Outside of that, yeah, Taryn. Oh, are you taking off? Okay, see you, man. Yeah, so outside of that, I want to build in a background job support. That's something that's been on my mind for a while, as supporting background jobs. And in such a way where like from the very start, it actually runs in process. And so it's not actually reducing load on your server. It's just allowing you to do stuff later so that user doesn't have to wait. And so that's the way that I think it should start. You don't need another service until you get to a scale where your one server can't do it all. And then, but make that really easy to swap out for using a hosted service of something. And there's this a tool called BullMQ, I think, that I'm interested in looking at. So yeah, background jobs, cron jobs, that's definitely something that is on the roadmap. Cron jobs actually not a really huge issue because you've got like GitHub is a big part of the Epic Stack too. That's the deployment pipeline, and GitHub's got cron jobs. But yeah, background jobs definitely something that like I can already think of a use case for it, and that's expired sessions. I want to be able to delete those in the background. That'd probably be a cron job. I'll have to think about how I do that. But anyway, that's something I want to add to the Epic Stack. Another thing that yeah, would really like to get, there was, oh yeah, a good logging service or some mechanism for doing logs. Oh yeah, for sure, an email or a image optimization thing. So whether we're using a service or we just have a resource route that optimizes images for us properly. Right now, we're just storing the images that you upload in the database, which is fine, but not awesome. And it would be awesome to, yeah, to not have to, or to have a better way to host those images. S3 is kind of like the de facto that everybody wants to use, but I'm actually really bullish on LightFS, and I think that we could make something like that work and be really awesome in the future. We'll see. That's just another thing I have to evaluate. Or you know what, like very reasonably could just say, put it on Cloudflare or put it on Cloudinary. But yeah, there's lots of different things to consider in that world. So yeah, other things, like you can look at the discussions. There's probably other things that I'm not really thinking about that I or thinking right now that I'd like, but yeah, there you go. That's a couple things. Okay, Raphael, I have some pages that a user needs to be logged in. I don't want to write a check for the session in each route. Is doing shadow layout, which wraps everything below and redirects to login page good. So I understand the pain for sure. The shadow layout route, I've actually never heard of that be called that before, but I do know what you mean. And that's just like a layout route that wraps everything like you like you just said. The problem with that is that you're not actually protecting against access on the child routes, because somebody could hit those routes directly, with a curl or something. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of danger there. Typically, I found that in most routes, you actually need to get the user ID to get whatever data they have access to anyway, and so not a huge deal. But maybe your user is an admin and you're on the admin routes, and you want to be able to assume that if they're an admin, I can go and get all of the users and I don't have to check, you're not going to filter by the user ID of the currently logged in user. You just know they're an admin, right? So if you have a shadow layout route that takes care of redirecting the user, you're not going to protect all of the child routes. That's routes are not middleware in that they run sequentially. They actually run all at the same time. And so even if the user lands on this page, and yeah, they're going to get redirected because the shadow route, all of the other loaders are still going to accept traffic to them and will return what they return. So that is not the solution. The real solution will be in Remix v3 and hopefully, very possibly v2. Like, I'm not sure that this is necessarily a breaking change. But the work that the Remix team is working on right now should make for a better middleware experience than anything I've ever seen before. It's going to be really cool. But for now, what you could do to solve this particular problem is to do that logic inside of your Express server. So if I can pull up the Epic stack and we take a look at the server index, here it is. So here we've got an Express server. We've got our app, and we say for all of the things, let's go to our create request handler, and that's all the Remix stuff. So right before that, you'd say app.get /admin, whatever, and then you would do your check right there. So on the Express side of things, and that way you can feel protected in all of those routes. It's actually not like super complicated, but it is kind of annoying. I know, so that is what it is. Hopefully that answers your question, Raphael. And we are. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. I didn't know that user can also hit by curl, so redirect won't work and still access to resources.
Yeah, and actually, it's important that it works the way that it does, because if I'm looking at a Remix app here, if I say, hey, let's go to the next page, then we're getting these requests right here that are sending me, where are these payload preview? That's weird. Are these prefetch requests? Yeah, these are, oh, it's coming from prefetch. Okay, hard refresh, there we go. Clear all this stuff out. And then I actually prefetch all this stuff. So let's look at that data. Oh, right, because it's a prefetch, it doesn't actually come back. All right, here we go. And this is actually streamed too, so because I'm using defer. But yeah, you can see we're returning the data for this particular route. That includes like all the instructions and everything as well. But you'll also notice that we're not actually making a request to the root loader either. The root loader is responsible for like, I actually don't know. What does the root loader do? Well, the parent loader here at least loads the titles here, loads the nav over here, all of that stuff. We don't need to revalidate that just because we're going to the next page. And so that's why all of the loaders have to be able to be accessible as individual API routes, basically. so that we can just request. All I need is this routes data. And so that's why it's not protected. So, okay. Cool. Thoughts on switching to Hono from Express? Yes, I'm super into it. I would absolutely want to do that. The biggest thing that the reason that it's not done already, I would like to do it, but the reason it's not done already is because I don't want to have to re-implement Express Helmet. I don't want to have to re-implement the static stuff. I'm sure Hono has that stuff. So that's fine. But yeah, Express Helmet, I need something that allows me to make a content security policy in Hono, and I just don't know what that is. I don't want to re-implement rate limiting in Hono, so I need to find a solution for that in Hono. And so yeah, if I can do all of this stuff in Hono, then I'm super on board. I would love to do that, but as of right now, I don't have the time to put into that, and Express isn't enough of a pain to motivate me to put any effort in to doing that. So that's why. Okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining. This has been fun. And yeah, hopefully in a couple weeks we can do another one of these after Epic Web has come out, and we can answer more questions about that. Until then, let's take a look at my live schedule. I have not been live streaming for a while. I'm sorry. It's just been not convenient for me to do that. But yeah, so next week I am not going to be doing office hours because I will be in React live.nl in Amsterdam. It's going to be sweet. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a great conference. And I'm giving a workshop. Actually, I'm giving the auth workshop, not the whole thing, because this is a ridiculous amount of material. It takes like 5 days to get through all this stuff, but lots of this we will get through. And so, yeah, if you want to come and go through that workshop and also see a bunch of really cool people speaking, then come to Amsterdam. It's going to be fun. So yeah, no office hours next week. But the week after that, pretty sure we should have office hours. And then sometime around in here, we're going to be launching Epic Web. So stay tuned. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody.